Wait.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Attorney in her capacity as the Minister for Consumer and Business Affairs. Can the Minister please update the House on the implementation by the Office of Consumer and Business Services of the 2019 Gambling Regulation Act? And, sir, with your leave and that of the House, I'll further explain.
Leave is sought. Is leave granted?
Thank you, sir. The Parliament passed significant gambling reforms in 2019, with many of the changes in the Act still not implemented by CBS. This go-slow is causing significant damage to the SA racing industry, and that is, of course, an industry that employs many South Australians.
The Attorney.
Well, look, in relation to the gambling reform, I know that there's quite a subset of regulatory application and the commencement in relation to a number of the aspects of that gambling reform, which I've only just recently approved. So I'll get a detailed answer in respect of the progress as to the implementation and the time frame of that. But it is graduated in relation to different aspects of the gambling reform. And as you know, the member will be fully aware that when we debated the gambling reforms in the statute, there were prerequisites for the introduction. For example, the accessibility for a provider to have note acceptors in relation to poker machines had to be matched with the identification equipment to be installed. The casino, for example, already had facial recognition technology. A number of hoteliers didn't. So these are the sorts of things that had to be considered in relation to the staggered implementation of those programs. There was a comment made, I think more than a question, in relation to the racing industry, but I do want to remind the House that both the racing industry and I think golf are probably the two sports that have best fared during COVID, that is, without interruption. And golf has been something that has been very much supported by Professor Spurrier as an outdoor activity, and her continued desire for the people of South Australia to continue to be active, walk in parks, utilise those recreation areas, play a game of golf, etc. Most members here would have some access to or have golf courses or clubs in their local area, and without exception, the ones I've had anything to do with in the recent few years have actually had hundreds of new members. Well, that's a great thing for that sport. Racing in the same way has been able to continue to race, and areas such as the member for Hammond, of course, have got a magnificent racing facility at Murray Bridge, and of which there's been significant investment by this government to ensure that they continue to develop that. There's been advancement in relation to Morpheville Racecourse and other projects that are happening in that regard. Racing has been able to continue, not always with a big public attendance. Obviously, there's been restriction on that. But almost every other sport or activity has actually had to weather interruption. They might have had games scheduled that have been cancelled. They wouldn't be able to participate, have had to shorten their program for the year. They may have lost revenue from different opportunities of the activities that they run. In relation to the envelope of gambling, obviously racing is a critical industry for the purposes of providing the product for gambling in Australia, and South Australia is no exception. So we do understand the significance of the laws that have been changed by this parliament. We've tried to work with industry, and CBS have had responsibility for that, to ensure that we don't overload in a circumstance where industry is trying to deal with pandemics and interruptions, and now I talk about other providers of gambling services such as hotels. We've had to try and work with those industries to make sure that they're not overloaded, and also to make sure that where we have given them some opportunities, that they're able to take those up. So, in short, I'll get back to the House with and the member in particular, with a schedule of the implementation of those programs.